Here's a question for you. What could a 16th century astrologer and a popular American animated show possibly have in common? Bear with me, this will get interesting. There's a well-known quote attributed to a French astrologer named Michel de Nostradamus, better known as Nostradamus. It goes like this. From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born to poor people. He, by his tongue, will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the East. Now, if you play that back in your mind, it might sound eerily familiar. Some people believe this passage could be about Adolf Hitler. It has that uncanny feel of prophecy, doesn't it? Let's take a moment to consider who Nostradamus really was. Born in 1503, he was a French astrologer and physician who later gained fame for his seemingly predictive poems. At just 14 years old, he began studying at the University of Avignon, but he had to leave shortly after because the plague was sweeping across Europe. Afterward, he spent years working as an apothecary before formally pursuing medicine. Unfortunately, that didn't go smoothly either. He was expelled because of his previous apothecary work, which was against university rules. By 1555, he had published Les Prophecies, a collection of 942 poetic quatrains, which some believe foretold future events. Initially, the reception was mixed. Some thought he was a madman, a fraud, or even an agent of evil. Nostradamus claimed that his work was based on careful calculations of planetary and stellar movements in relation to Earth. But much of it was also influenced by ancient end-of-world prophecies, historical events, and even older omen reports. He had a way of blending these elements into vivid predictions, painting pictures of wars, plagues, natural disasters, and uprisings. Fast forward to modern times, and Nostradamus remains a popular figure in the world of prophecy. But why? Academics are quick to point out that his quatrains are filled with vague, ambiguous language, allowing them to be reinterpreted time and time again. When you leave the details hazy, people can make almost anything fit. And yet, there are a handful of predictions that seem eerily on point. Among his most famous predictions, supporters claim he foresaw the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, the rise of Napoleon, and even Adolf Hitler. Take, for instance, Quatrain 523. The two contenders will unite together when most others unite with Mars. The African leader is fearful and trembles. The dual alliance is separated by the fleet. Some people have stretched this to reference Elon Musk, who was born in South Africa and is spearheading the quest to reach Mars. Could that be what Nostradamus meant? Maybe, maybe not. Prophecy has always been alluring to people. There's something thrilling and maybe even comforting about the idea that someone could foresee what's to come. But let's not forget the classic line, history repeats itself. Often, predictions aren't about some mystical foresight, they're about patterns. Now, let's switch gears to something a little more contemporary. Did you know that The Simpsons has an impressive track record for predicting future events? It's almost as if they have their own Nostradamus working behind the scenes. In one infamous episode titled Bart to the Future, Lisa Simpson becomes the president and offhandedly mentions fixing the economy after Donald Trump's presidency. That episode aired in the year 2000, long before anyone seriously considered Trump in politics. Another wild one is from the episode Marge in Chains, where the people of Springfield catch a flu via a shipment from Asia. Sound familiar? It certainly does to those of us who lived through the global COVID-19 pandemic. How could a show about a dysfunctional cartoon family foresee these major events? The simple answer is that the Simpsons writers are some of the sharpest minds in the industry. They have a knack for taking what's happening in the world at the time, pushing it just far enough into the future, and imagining what might come next. It's not magic. It's an insightful understanding of human behavior and current events. There's also something called the law of truly large numbers. Mathematicians Frederick Mosteller and Percy Diaconis came up with this concept in 1989, which essentially states that given a large enough sample size, even the most unlikely events are bound to happen eventually. With over 728 episodes of The Simpsons spanning 3 decades, the sample size is certainly large enough for a few crazy coincidences to emerge. But beyond coincidence, there's something else at play here, a concept called the psychosphere. This idea suggests that we're all interconnected by a mental atmosphere, allowing us to know things subconsciously that we don't realize we know. It's not a scientific fact, but it's an intriguing theory about how collective thoughts might shape the future. There's also Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which explains that we can't know both the position and speed of a particle at the same time. The more we focus on one, the less we know about the other. Could it be that the more we fixate on certain outcomes, the more likely they are to happen? It's a fascinating concept that hints at the complexity of our universe and how our thoughts might influence reality. Predictions, whether made by ancient astrologers or contemporary animated shows, will always capture our imaginations. They force us to question what we know and what we don't know. But at the end of the day, predicting the future is tricky business. Coincidence, deep understanding of the past, and the power of human creativity all play a part in the process. So, what does all of this mean for us? Well, we may not be able to foresee tomorrow in the way Nostradamus or The Simpsons seem to, but we do have the power to shape it. If you've been waiting for love, it will come, but only if you're open to receiving it. If you've been struggling with your job or finances, there's progress around the corner, but you've got to make space for it by letting go of the past. Your tomorrow, your future, is in your hands. It's a matter of creating the right mindset, preparing yourself for change, and being brave enough to embrace it when it arrives. No one can predict your future with certainty, but they can remind you of your potential to shape it. So while the future may feel like a mystery, one thing is clear: you have the power to make it whatever you want it to be.